Elf. Uh, the internet is having a little bit of a fit, but otherwise, we seem to be doing okay. So, we're going to be talking quite a bit of news, although I miscalculated when I said that E3 was going to be on. Apparently, we still have Dodger here hosting Dodger for some reason.
That's a show I see us on my
Okay.
end.
Yeah, it's technical difficulties, folks. It happens. Um, so we have. Here we are. Make sure that I don't have an echo. Um, there's got a bit of news, but I started by saying that I miscalculated on E3 2018. It's going to be between July 11th and July 14th. June, not July, not May. Usually it's at the end of May or the beginning of July. Well, this time around it's going to be early to mid June. I don't know why I keep saying July for some reason. My bad. So we have a couple of news. Mostly they're Nintendo news. Although, of course, Destiny pops up again in the news again because Activision can do no right, apparently. Um,
Oh,
and, you know, even when they have the best games, the best selling games, they still screw it up. Uh,
yep.
Probably going to talk about the couple of releases that were this week, or at least the big release, which was Pillars of Eternity, which I haven't played yet, and I probably won't play. For the people saying, "Well, you're gonna stream that?" It's like, well, I haven't really finished BattleTech, so I don't think I'm gonna be playing that. Also, I didn't finish original POE, so I don't think I want to jump that jump into that cold because it's a sequel. Deadfire it is. So I like to avoid July, and also I want to avoid what happened with Far Cry, which is jumping into a game um, with little or no, just because I was following a trend. And right now the game it's about $50, which for the kind of game it is, I find that a little bit too expensive for my taste. Cheaper than $60, which is the usual, right? But still, um, the thing that happening. So let's start with some news. Let's talk about E3. Rumor has it that a Walmart, I thought it was a GameStop, but a Walmart in Canada uh, leaked a bunch of PS4 games that might be showing up in E3. In other words, they leaked games that might be released later on this year or next year, and might be something that PlayStation 4 might have released. Among the games rumored, this is a rumor, folks, are Splinter Cell. Wait, I think this is. No, yes, E3 2018. Yeah, Just Cause 4, Rage 2, and Borderlands 3.
Hmm.
Now that I read this list, I don't know. I mean, Rage 2? The
Did
original
the
Rage
first? Did the first one sell good?
didn't do so well. It was kind of panned by critics. Um, it's a sort of cheap knockoff of Bethesda's Fallout series. It looked prettier, but that was the end of that. Borderlands 3, I thought they were done with the Borderlands with Tales of the Borderlands and that sort of half chapter thing that they did a couple years ago. Just Cause 4, maybe, but Just Cause 3 was, a lot of people thought it was more of the same from Just Cause 2. And Splinter Cell has been a rumor for a very long time, at least a return to, you know, um, to the original Splinter Cell single player type game. So that seems like a list, but I would not hold my breath on that because it seems a bit dodgy. But
Yeah.
it's a rumor, and if
I
it proves to be true, then more power to them.
I almost feels like if Borderlands 3 was a thing, we it would have gotten leaked before then.
Yeah. What's the company behind Borderlands?
Gearbox.
Yeah, Gearbox is not known for, well, not Gearbox. The
I
people
think they're the
behind
publishers.
the publishers, yeah, but yeah, Gearbox is unknown for keeping their trap shut, particularly their CEO, who, well, I believe it's Randy Pitchfork,
Yeah.
and he's been known for some doozies in the past, and a running duel with Jim Sterling of all people, which haven't endeared him to a lot of his community or the internet for that matter. So then we have, talking about games that are out now, Destiny 2. The new, supposedly new DLC came out, Warmind / expansion. Well, with Destiny, it's like it's a MMO light, so they're sold as DLCs, but really they're kind of old-fashioned expansions. But the problem is, again, a lot of people are upset because it recycles a lot of assets and even missions from the existing game. So, and this is not the first time Destiny or Activation Destiny has gone into a problem, because they did a similar situation with original Destiny. We say, oh, we're gonna send a series of expansions, and they reprice the whole thing, and the DLC made it far more expensive than the original buy. So if you wanted, you had to sort of rebuy the whole thing. It was a mess.
And then of course, on top of that, there was then they mentioned that the content seems lacking. It seems like recycled content. And then there was news that they released, or they're planning a new loot box of some sort, where it's sort of instead of like a random item, there's a pool of items that you get a chance to get from these pool of items, so you know ahead of time how many which items you could potentially get, and you are guaranteed to not get duplicates. However, you're only allowed to get one of these loot boxes free once a week. Or so once a week. They cycle these items out, I think, weekly. So if you want more, the only way to get it is to buy.
Kind of what, similar to what Blizzard does with Overwatch. Essentially, everything is limited edition.
Yep.
Talking of which, they now have a Pink Mercy as a limited edition skin. It's for charity, but we've seen charity stuff like this before. I just the fact that I don't like loot boxes and loot crates and microtransactions. Just
so is it random, or do you have to?
No, you buy the skin. You get what you pay for, I think.
Oh, as long as it all goes to charity, and unlike Warner Brothers, who did the one DLC.
Yeah, but I think
most proceeds go to maybe this family, except for if you lived outside of the U.S. Or all proceeds goes to us.
Or certain states in the U.S. or on and on and on and on. But the thing, again, people watching this show for a while know my distaste for the microtransactions, and also the fact, you get your Pink Mercy. Once they get you into the idea of paying for this stuff, then summer's gonna roll on. They're probably gonna have bring back the summer skins, and I want that one of those, and that's how they get you, right? It's like, yeah, this feels good because it's it's for charity, but also corporate charities are not as efficient as people like to think. They don't have to give the entire amount of money to the charity. They just have to pledge a certain amount. Could be, I think, as low as 20%. Depending on the state where they organize a charity, and how they, and then the money that goes to the charity themselves. I think the way it goes, and many charities can spend up to 80% of the income on expenses.
Yeah,
and only use 20% for the given amount of charity. So
yep.
Charities are not necessarily the most efficient way of doing things. It makes you feel good about helping people, but you have to check every charity individually. So there's that. Then we have, and this was a news that happened last week and this week. The FCC, for once, did something good, and that's because they basically reminded several computer manufacturers, and in this case, for gaming console manufacturers, that those stickers that say that the warranty is voided if you open the box and break the seal are, by I believe a 1978 law, totally and completely illegal. And the FTC warned them that if they don't change their policies, they could be fined. And they could be fined. I think the threat was it going to be fined per sticker per machine. when you sell millions of units, well, really they could still pay the fine and keep going, but it's embarrassing, and it's more like, oh, you're clearly the bad guys here, and that doesn't look good for anyone.
Yep.
And in response to that, this week, Sony said that, yeah, fine, no problem. If we'll honor the warranty, regardless of whether the sticker is broken or not, except if opening the box would have caused the damage that you're claiming happened to the console.
Yeah.
That, I mean, unless you open the box with a hammer or something, it's.
Yeah. Although I can see them also voiding it if you try tampering with it, if you try like physical mods on your console.
Yeah, but most people who do physical mods either do them themselves or they send it to a company, somebody who fixes them and will do the mods anyway. And some mods are also software as well, so yeah, it's easier to do mods with older machines. Like, I wouldn't use my current machine unless I have more than one for modding.
Yeah.
Your internet connection is unstable, according to OBS. Thank you, OBS. Performing that. And so that's the situation happening with PlayStation. On the release side, Pillars of Eternity came out Tuesday. It's the new game on Twitch Town. Everybody seems to be playing, and one of the reasons why people are very enthused about, excited about Pillars of Eternity is that the original Pillars of Eternity did very well, although the follow-up game by Obsidian, Tyranny, didn't do so well. And it's also because it's a classic Baldur's Gate style isometric RPG, but with some noticeable improvements. I've seen some of them. For example, when if you're doing stealth, the enemies have a circle that tells you if you get into that circle, they'll detect you, which is pretty cool, right? And the voices from the Critical Role crew, which are most of them or all of them are voice actors, are doing some of the voices or in the game. And I think Vox Machina, which is the D&D group that they had, will be in game in one form or another. I think that's the implication as well. Certainly the character portraits for their old characters will be there. Not the current campaign in Critical Role, but the previous long-running campaign, the one that propelled Critical Role to, geek stardom, I suppose, or geekdom. That doesn't work. No, never mind. So that's also a selling point, which is very interesting because it's in the past. Unless you had celebrity voice actors per se, you rarely, although we've seen a change in that, we rarely really put the voice actors as being, the reason why you should buy this game. I think The Last of Us was one of the first games that really emphasized the actors and actresses behind the voice, especially the leads that did Joel and
is that Ellie?
And Ellie, yeah. And also, especially coming after the voice actors strike that ended early this year with an agreement, that's another positive step, I suppose. Of course, the game is not fully voice acted, so not every single line is spoken because it's it's a huge game, and in the classic vein of again Baldur's Gate, they'll only probably they have a little more spoken lines. Like they have full speeches and stuff like that. It used to be in older games, unless it was a very critical point, maybe a narrator would talk and that was it. And then the characters would say an opening line and then everything else was text. There's still plenty of text, what I've seen, but yeah. So it's a thing. But came out and I won't be jumping into it right away because I'm still smarting from Far Cry 5. But eventually, once I get around um, to deal with, finish BattleTech, which also is an indie game with some voice acting, but not full-on voice acting in a sort of classical vein, older games, we'll probably get around to that. Probably do PoE 1 and 2 back to back if I can manage it, which will be something. But then moving on to one of our favorite subjects, not Bioware.
I was about to say BioWare.
No, Switch, the Switch. One big news has two parts. First of all, the Nintendo Virtual Console will not be coming to the Switch. People have been wanting, because through that service they could get older games, and there'll be some older games that have been ported to the Switch, right? But for the most part,
Yeah.
we haven't seen this sort of big move toward that yet. What basically what we're seeing is more like dual releases, especially in the first year of the Switch. We had games that were released on the Wii U and the Switch. They were hedging their bets, but now it's all on full on Switch, which is great. For Switch users, Wii users, the 5 people that still own a Wii U and still use it. Well, not so much for you. I'm sorry. It happens. On the other hand, they're going to have a new Nintendo Online service. And I believe, let's see what the name of the online service is. Yeah, Nintendo Switch Online. Couple of things. One of them is that it's not really offering anything new. And second, it's going to be a paid service.
Yep.
So
much like in the vein of a PlayStation Plus
and
or Xbox Live.
Xbox Live, yeah. Well,
so
Xbox Live is still, I think, the silver. Still, the basic service is free.
Yeah, they've sort of bumped it up a little based on some feedback. Like before, you had to have a Xbox Live in order to be able to use other streaming services that you pay for already, such as like Netflix, which is kind of ridiculous. They have to pay a subscription in order to access your other subscription. But I believe now that you can use that without paying Xbox Live. However, if you want to hop on to play online, you got to play either Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus, depending on your console. Nintendo's going to be the same way. One thing that most people have been pretty outraged, aside from maybe the lack of a virtual console, is the fact that this is the only way you can save, back up any saves on your Switch without modding, and the official way anyways, is that you have to pay for this service in order to get cloud saving, which a lot of people are upset about.
I've never really, I have cloud saving in Steam and stuff like that, but I don't deliberately use it. In fact, I sometimes find it to be a bit of a nuisance, because sometimes I don't want to go to specific. I want to start from the beginning, and the game's like, oh no, you're gonna have to start over there because that's where the cloud save is, or maybe you got desync or some problems. So I had some problems with it. I'm not a big user of it. I suppose with the limited space, especially memory, and the hard drive, and the fact that it uses cartridges, some memory cards. Cloud service would certainly be something that you really want to use on the Nintendo Switch. Although, portably speaking, you would need to have a Wi-Fi connection or your cell phone in order to effectively use it outside of your house. So there's that. A reliable Wi-Fi. So no Starbucks for you.
Although to sort of go with the lack of a virtual console is the fact that similar to what PlayStation and now Xbox, I believe, does it, is they give you so many games free per month. And what Nintendo's offering you are access to 20 of NES classic titles that are functional on the Switch. So far, some of the titles are kind of standard and honestly not all that interesting, like Super Mario Brothers and
I suppose
Bubble, I think.
Yeah, well, it's like essentially getting the NES Classic. I think that maybe that reason why they stopped selling the NES Classic. Like they didn't want a product competing with
their own service, maybe.
Suppose, yeah.
And of course, this does lead to speculation, as if we're going to see other uh, other old school console games show up on this service, such as Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, or GameCube, or even Wii and Wii U games.
I mean, there's a lot of GameCube games out there that are obscure, but were very popular when they came out.
Oh yeah, and they're expensive. We were just we went shopping today at a used bookstore, and they sell used video games, and we paid like $40 for Paper Mario and the the 1,000-year-old door.
Oh yeah. I think there also the RPG, the Mario RPGs also came out. The first one came from the GameCube as well. Also because one of the reasons it's very rare, and also they don't have a standard disc format.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo went with a half mini disc thing that worked for them, I suppose. But
it did limit developers on how much they can put on a disc.
Yeah, but there were some fantastic games on the GameCube. People
tend to forget. If you can look past all the shovelware that's on there.
Yeah. But I think it's also, I mean, one of the benefits, and for example, Microsoft has been pushing hard on this stuff of getting backwards compatible, because they're moving away. They basically want to turn the Xbox as the premier, live service box, which makes sense because Xbox Live has been something they're doing since the Xbox OC, and has been very good for them, right? Better to keep the people that are already playing Xbox, the millions of people who are using Xbox Live, keep using Xbox Live and buy new Xboxes and games by offering older games, rather than try to compete directly with PlayStation or Nintendo in terms of raw sales, right? Although the Xbox One X is supposed to, again, they've done very well of late, but in overall sales, it doesn't compare to either the growth of the Switch or the existing numbers that, the back catalog of sales that PlayStation has. So Sony has through the PlayStation 4 and the 4 Plus. So there's that. But Nintendo is in a good position because they have solid lineup of of first party games, right? I mean, talk about, you can go Zelda, Mario Brothers. You can go all the way back. Well, I think the original Donkey Kong belongs to them, I think, or
Nintendo.
Yeah, or Namco.
Yeah, it does. No, Donkey Kong belongs to them, I believe.
They could go all the way back to the original Donkey Kong, to whatever Super Mario Brothers games Mario Brothers you're playing today, and that's dozens, probably close to 100 games, right? Imagine having like a Mario Holiday where you started in Donkey Kong and be able to play Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong Country. Mario Brothers. Mario Brothers is a game I haven't played in years, and probably have to emulate it. Super Mario Brothers, of course, and all those games in just one console. Like, I just want to play for 5 seconds, something like that. Well, I'll just load up Donkey Kong and play that, and maybe play little Mario Brothers, and all the Zeldas that started with NES, the Star Foxes. Although some of the latest Star Foxes, the control, especially for the Wii U, were kind of wonky, so they will have to remake them. But they have these huge libraries, and the ability of the portability of the Switch means that you could have hundreds of games available to people who are, if you love the latest Zelda game, maybe that was your first game. Want to try Wind Waker? Want to try the original Legend of Zelda? You can do that, right? And all the remakes and stuff like that. Play all the Mario games, yeah.
Oh yes. Well, hopefully something like this would drive down the cost of just like old school collectible stuff, because right now the prices are ridiculous, especially for popular games like that.
Yeah. You could try all the Mario Kart games. I mean, there's so much. You try the old Mario Doctors, which were basically a version of Tetris, right? There's so many games. All the Pokemon games.
Yeah, and the other thing that I didn't mention is that they're also adding like online support for some of these games as well. So it's not just that you download them and play them. If they have multiplayer capability, you can play with other players online, or I would assume that you would also be able to play locally.
Yeah.
But there's also this other thing for single players is that you can take turns playing and watching someone else play online.
I mean, the Switch is also very perfect to recreating that old feeling of the two people playing a console because because it's portable, you can just bring it to your friend's house. It's like, oh, let's just play on the couch.
Yep.
You know, you grab one Joy-Con, I have another, or you have your Joy-Cons and I have mine, and or just hook it up to your TV and play like that. You know, so or people having two Switches and playing. I can imagine. I mean, that's what one of the things that made, for example, the portable consoles, you know, for Nintendo was so popular, right? The Game Boys, the Game Boy Advance, and they had like connections, you connect one with the other, and they had all these devices, and they even had like printers and cameras, and
There was a cell phone adapter thing to do internet stuff in Japan for the Game Boy.
They had like a camera that you could record things and take pictures with, and it was like a very primitive black and white like video camera, thermal printer. I mean, and also that could open up a lot of the Japan only games as well. The regional log, so I don't know how well they're gonna do that. But if Nintendo were smart and wanted to really, literally, put Nintendo on your hands, that will be the best. That will be the dream thing, and also cloud saves or all that. So if it works, it could work. The problem is Nintendo has been always slow in the uptake on this, and their services have never been the best. Right?
Yeah, much like PlayStation's also online service is terrible too. There's usually a lot of issues with connections and slow internet. The PlayStation 4 has been a lot better than the PlayStation 3, but oh man, PlayStation 3 was just slow as a snail.
Plus the whole thing that happened when they took a hit by hackers that there were months offline and had problems. So that was a thing.
Yeah, so and the thing is too, wasn't Nintendo supposed to roll this out last September? I believe they slated this to be this September, but when the launch when the Switch launched, I believe they were saying, "Oh, we're going to aim it towards the end of the year 2017 online service," and that never happened.
Maybe they wanted to make sure that it ran okay. Also, remember they have their Splatoons as well, and other games are very popular. And if your internet service is not up to par, then those games are going to take a hit.
Yep.
Yeah, so you want to keep them alive as long as possible. Talk about online services, we have news that a hacker, a Romanian national named Calin Mateas, was conducted a DDoS attack against servers and this is back in 2010 against World of Warcraft. And he finally is going to serve. He was extradited to the U.S., convicted and sentenced for his role in the U.S. attack on Blizzard's European WoW servers. How much did he get? Well, he got jail time. And this article doesn't tell me how much jail time he's getting. So yeah, that was a news that released. This week as well, that a WoW hacker got jail time
from 2020, or I mean 2012,
2010.
Oh, 2010. Wow.
Yeah,
it took them 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, court service. I mean, he was a Romanian, so first you had to build the case, and then had to be, of course, arrested, and then extradited, and then the justice system, especially international justice system, are going to be pretty slow. So there's that. I think that's, unless we have any other pieces of news. Let me check. I think we covered most of everything. We're going to cover this this week. I'm sure there's other news, but we'll skip them. And we're gonna start talking about the finally get to the point of the program. See if we can fill the remaining half hour or so. Tonight we're gonna be talking about formulas. We mentioned them before, about formulaic games, and we said good things about them. We say bad things about it, but now we're really going to talk about them. So again, you might not be surprised, but we're gonna trot out the old horses or their corpses. And talk about them at length. And the first thing I will say about formulas is that in many ways, formulas are what makes genres. We have genres in video games because people have taken a formula, replicated, altered it, grown it, changed it, etc., and made variations to the game up to the point where they improve on the formula to the point that the formula cannot take it anymore, or they spin off create a new formula in the process and create a new game. So formulaic games, or having a formula as a company or something like that, is not inherently bad. However, the flip side is anytime a video game company sticks to their formula too much, and I'm talking to you, Ubisoft. If they was going to talk about somebody else, no, I'm talking about you, Ubisoft. We're going to talk about you. Then it can go sideways. Why am I talking about this? Because I'm still miffed about Far Cry 5. Because after doing a lot of thinking, and also, by the way, shout out to Aaron Signal, their YouTube channel. They discuss video games, and they go into greater depth into a lot of the sort of nitty-gritty of terminology and study about what makes games and the language of game design. Check them out under Aaron Signal. He also has a Patreon. It's a single guy. Actually, he's married, but it's one person behind the channel. That's what I meant to say. And one of the things is that he talked about a lot of these things, and I was thinking, okay, and all about it, the Ludo aspect of games, the gameplay versus the narrative aspect and whatnot, which again got me back to thinking about Far Cry 5. In fact, I got to watching his videos because I watched a Far Cry video. I think it was a Far Cry 2 video and a Far Cry 3 video, I think, and maybe a Far Cry 5 video. And I started watching more and more videos, and it reminded me of why I was sour on the experience of Far Cry 5. And I come to the conclusion that because while I was playing the game, I was asking myself, why is this happening? Why are they doing this? And looking back, the reason why Far Cry 5 is the way it is, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is because it's a Far Cry game and a Ubisoft game.
Yep.
Every single thing that is there, the way the characters, they deliver the story, the way they act with the story, the game mechanics and all that, is there because it's a Far Cry game. And some people say, well, it's a Far Cry game, so what do you expect? It's like, well, I expect something better. But that's the thing about formula, right? Formula can get stale if you're just repeating yourself for the sake of repeating themselves. And they're aware that it's a formula. Like when you're playing the game, they go like, oh, I'm not going to ask you to climb too many towers. There's a few towers to climb, but, for other purposes. So they're aware of the jokes and the memes and all that. But everything else is Far Cry. And I was like, you could have done so much better. You have done so much better because there's Far Cry Blood Dragon, when they decided to use the formula in interesting ways, and that game is actually fun. It's short to the point. When it came out, it cost about $20. It still was around $10-15. You can find it on Steam, and it's fun. I mean, it's not perfect. It has some ridiculous things and all that, and it's a lot of 1980s sci-fi action flick quiche, but still, it's fun, and it's not burdened by all the crap that came before it, usually Far Cry 3, with some stuff from Far Cry 2, and the stuff that came after, Far Cry 4, Far Cry Primal, and of course Far Cry 5. And did I skip a Far Cry? I don't think there's many other Far Cries. There's being Primal, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
I don't think there was another one between them. So.
Nope.
So that's it, basically. I mean, like, okay, why is it that the game interrupts your gameplay constantly? Because I had done it before. Right?
Yep.
Why do you have animal companions? Which is a cool idea. Because they got introduced in Far Cry 4. And then in Far Cry Primal, they were like, you could kind of control them. Also because other games, I believe the latest Assassin's Creed also has like animals as well. They're like the drones in the game. So
Outpost.
You have the outpost, which are not bad. I mean, that's the thing about Far Cry. Like the things, especially gameplay, the things that they improve on they do a very good job. Like the outposts are very varied, and they feel more like, because that's the thing about, for example, going back to Far Cry 3, the outposts felt like they were just a ramshackle of shacks. They were just there because you needed an outpost, right? That was an activity. They felt barely functional, like they were there just because they were there. Here in 5, there are farms, there are homesteads, there are gas stations. It's the kind of thing that you would expect. Oh, I'm driving down the street. Yeah, that would be a gas station there. There'll be like an apple farm over there. There'll be like a small, main street over there, right, from a town. They make more sense. And each one of them has a theme to itself, even though sometimes they kind of repeat themselves. The climbing, the use of like zip lines, all that was a lot of fun. The weapons certainly were improved, although they have the whole thing, to getting your, microtransactions. Again, because Far Cry 5 have microtransactions, because other Ubisoft games has microtransactions, right? The characters are pretty cool outside of, ironically, the characters outside of the story, because you have two set of characters. You have the characters that are in the story, and then you have the characters that populate the open world. Those characters are a lot of fun. And they're cool and they're wacky, and you're like, okay, this is crazy. Like, there's minor spoilers. There's a character that's sort of a sort of backyard scientist who is a conspiracy theorist who believes there's going to be an alien invasion, and at the end of his own quest, either one or two things happen. You're not really sure what happens. Either he disintegrated himself by pumping gazillion bolts of electricity, and I think the shoes are left, so he could have killed himself, or he truly teleported himself somewhere. You don't know, but it's that kind of thing. It's like, wow, this is pretty cool, right? This little thing that happened, and it's a little scripted event. It's pretty awesome, right? And stuff like that, right? And some of the callbacks to other games are pretty cool as well, and callback to local politics and the like. It's those things are excellent because you can see the constant improvements, right? But then the things that are bad with Far Cry, like, we're gonna have these charismatic characters that are constantly telling you that you're wasting your time, and the whole idea that you shouldn't really play the game, because in Far Cry 4 we had this option, which was a cool little option, that if you, in the opening of the game, if you sit down and wait for the character to come back and basically help you out, then he helps you out, and that's it. You do the thing and you go home. Game's over. They took that and it's like, oh well, we're gonna spend the entire story on you shouldn't do this at all. You could have avoided all of this and not done anything. And if you actually play the game, you're an idiot. I'm like, and that, of course, we both of us played Andromeda.
Yep.
Which also BioWare is also known for its formula, especially the sort of plot/character formula, because we've seen the same characters before. The BioWare bingo, where you have the mopey, male love interest, you have the sassy, dark female love interest who's be contrarian and somewhat evil. You have the innocent, smarty girl character.
You got like quirky characters that like have just something that's like overly abundant and just bizarre and out there. How quirky.
Mm-hmm. You have the characters that flirt with mental illness, but are treated like being very quirky and happy and just a little cookie, but they're great. You have one. You have the veteran, the downtrodden veteran who's has a dark past, or seems to have a dark past. You have the out and out kind of evil bastard who's just a fun kind of grandpa kind of character who knows better than everyone else, and he sees mostly a male who has seen the worst the galaxy has to offer, and they're like, well, fuck it, I know what I'm doing, and you can't convince me that the world is, or the universe is not evil. You have your big evil that is going to swallow everything and convert you to whatever it is they're going to do.
Yeah, why they're doing it, I don't know. They're evil.
They're either going to do it because they're going to convert you to goo, or because they're cursed and they're going to spread the curse, or they're just going to turn you into their own soldiers because that's what they do, right? You have the crafting, and ironically, one game that we bashed a lot in especially Dragon Age, Dragon Age 2, because in many ways it departed from formula.
Yeah, it tried to do a 3-act narrative structure instead of going for one progressively long story, which was bizarre. A lot of people don't like that. I kind of thought it was okay, even if it was disjointed.
Well, I wouldn't like it, if there was 3 acts of the same play, I suppose. Right, but it seems like
Yeah,
Act 1 seems to be Act 1 play, and Act 2 seems to belong in another play, and then Act 3 belongs in another story. It's like you jumping from one story to the next, but they're not really connected, and there's no real progression. And they changed the combat from the tactical combat. I mean, there have been some things like, for example, Bioware doesn't really do the old formula. Had all their games be very tactical. Like we talk about Pillars of Eternity, of course, they were one of the people. Officially, they were not the creators of, but they're usually, when people think about that game, they think of Bioware. It wasn't published by them, and they weren't even the main people behind it originally, but they created the engine for it and participated in design, and that was Baldur's Gate. And from Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2, we got Neverwinter Nights, we got KOTOR, and we got Dragon Age, where it had that sort of tactical design. But on the other hand, we started with Jade Empire. We started seeing more action-y games. Jade Empire, the Mass Effect series, and later on, Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition had the more arcadey, more mobile, more fast play, more console-driven game as well. So some changes are good, although some people hated that impression in Inquisition and 2. I actually liked it, a little bit. I mean, I liked it more in Inquisition because there was more variety of enemies and places to do it. Where in Dragon Age 2 was like, that in 3, 2, 1, 3 guys are gonna jump down from that wall, and another guy's gonna jump on that wall, and it's gonna be that guy who's at a bow, and that guy is gonna go attack me with a sword. Right? It was so predictable that you felt like you're just going through the shore, right?
Yep.
Another thing about BioWare is always they have something of an open world, right? Hub-based open worlds, but open worlds nonetheless. I mean, you go all the way back to Baldur's Gate, and you have these maps connected in a much bigger hub. In fact, it was like a T. You went to the east, and then you could go north and south, and then go throughout the rest of the region. And Mass Effect had, of course, all the planets in the galaxy. The map in Dragon Age Origins was there as well. Inquisition had an even bigger map with all these open areas, relatively open areas, and stuff like that. I think
they also got. And I was gonna say they sort of also tried adding more to their formula with Andromeda. I honestly, we could probably say they started adding like bad parts of other genres, especially when it comes to open worlds, like Fetch Quest Galore, worlds, big vast empty worlds full of nothing but Fetch Quest, and just, Quest Galore.
And that ties in with the whole idea of genre, right? That you not only have individual companies have their own formulas, but then these formulas sort of permeate the entire, genre. Like the Batman Arkham series, Batman Combat or Arkham Combat. Yep. That became a thing that is still being, some games are still using today, right? When it came out, it was pretty cool because it was punches and counterattacks, and you felt like you were Batman fighting a bunch of baddies. But then it was another Batman game and another Batman game, and then you had it on Warner Brother games like Shadow of Mordor. Kind of worked there, but it was all hat. And then you had, you had other games that used it as well. And it's like, okay, this has become tiresome. Just, and stuff like cover-based shooting and stuff like that. Of course, the biggest games that are, you can argue, are the worst offenders are the Call of Duties and the Battlefields.
Yep.
They really do not deviate from formula at all.
But, well, and then to kind of throw in something slightly different would be Telltale games.
Again, yeah.
They keep their incredibly formulaic. They keep their general structure, and then just kind of throw in whatever franchise they get their hands on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, let's go back to the formula itself. I mean, the thing about formula is that you, first of all, mere imitation is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing the thing the formula does because it worked before for you or worked for someone else is not enough. People are gonna notice. Like, because people say, "Well, why do I want to play this game when I already?" It feels like you're playing. It's a game that you already played, right?
Yeah.
Second, and that means that second you have to understand how and why the formula works. You know, it's that old adage about writers. Like writers can break the rules, but you first have to master them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't master the rules, then you're breaking stuff because out of ignorance, and you might get lucky, but probably not.
Yeah.
You know, there's some happy accidents, but not really. And I think Andromeda, in many ways, it kind of like felt that way, that they were following both established formula by EA, by the company, right?
Yeah.
And the industry on one hand, and also trying to imitate past formulas from BioWare itself.
Yeah, almost like they were trying to combine two different formulas and see if it would work. And no, it did not.
No. And because they didn't seem to have, even though people who work in Andromeda have been working in other BioWare games, so they came from the main studio, but it still felt like, how can I say this? It felt like they were imitating, not really innovating. They improved some things like the better vehicle mechanics and stuff like that, but the improvements and the combat was, I don't know if the combat actually was a real improvement per se. I don't think it was. It was good.
The movements were a lot more fluid than anybody and then on the previous games, but the powers didn't really have that same pizzazz. And the guns were just guns, at least to me.
Yeah. Because I think what really worked in those games is that it was a mixture of the sort of tactical, stop and go kind of combat that you had before, right? With the possibility of it basically was like cover-based shooting, right? The thing about cover-based shooting is that it's stop and go, right? It's all about the tempo. Usually what happened in Andromeda shootout was either you were very far away and you're shooting them, with a sniper rifle. Usually that's what I did. Or you got close, got to a position, and then just mowed down everybody who was in front of you, and that was it. And you moved, Wherein, for example, Mass Effect 3, yeah, the maps were much smaller and all that because following tradition of those maps, but you got to a position and I would use this power to neutralize that thing over there, and I would use my guns to shoot this guy over here, and then I would call one of my, I don't have that power, but my teammate has a power, so I'm going to lock down those guys over there, like lock a door so they don't come more reinforcements with a warp ability and stuff like that. I felt like I had backup and had allies, but I really was playing alone. They would occasionally kill somebody or get in the way between me and the enemy so I could run away to another place I was going to hide for a while, right?
Or in my case, just remind me that they're empty and they don't matter because the enemies just keep attacking me despite the fact that I'm not even attacking that enemy, and all my companions are attacking the same person.
Yeah. I felt like a squad leader in Mass Effect. In Andromeda, I was just some kind of rando commando. I was just going by myself, like, just gonna shoot whatever. And the fights were also very repetitive as well, which ironically they were less scripted in a sense because they were just randomly generated, like enemies just land on many of these locations, and you could almost see their spawn points too. It's like, okay, and I think because the combat was derived from multiplayer, right? Something that wasn't part of the formula, and multiplayer never really fit well with a lot of BioWare games. BioWare doesn't seem to do multiplayer exceptionally well, enough for me to justify being there. I know people that love the multiplayer, but I don't know. It just seems like it's still tacked on.
Yeah, I think most people forget that Inquisition had a multiplayer. I don't think when people talk about multiplayer, I've never heard anyone talk about the multiplayer in Inquisition.
Mm-hmm. And it's also about formula as well, about the effective formula. I think the fact that you have formulaic games, especially if you don't evolve the game, if you don't make enough changes and keep up, with the standing of the formula and improving the areas that need to improve, but stick to the areas that don't need improvement, is that people like streamers and critics and reviewers and all that, we tend to get tired of these games far quicker than the average consumer.
Yeah.
For two reasons. First of all, we tend to play as much and more games that they do, on average. Because I'm playing every day. I'm playing most every day game. I'm playing one game, but I'm playing all day, right? Not all day, but most days. And also the fact you just gotta notice the fact that this is a rethread sooner and get tired of it. But also I think it's a lot of fans kind of like the formula. I mean, that they play a game because it's part of the formula. They want to play another Shadow of War game. They want to play another because that's what they like. So it takes longer for them to be tired of it. But once they hit that threshold, boom.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if we'll ever see something like that happen with the Souls games, because those are pretty popular. And so far, I don't think the Souls game has had any kind of flops in terms of critical reception.
Well, I guess they do make small changes. And enough that they polish things, and now people are expecting a return to the original. Not the Dark Souls, not Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls was the original. People tend to forget about it. That's the first Dark Souls are going to be released to PC and console re-release, especially for consoles because they're going to upgrade the graphics and all that. It was notoriously bad in PC, at least the port, before extensive mods. And also there's the fact that sometimes, again, breaking with formula can be bad. I mean, GTA 4 so well, but when I played it, I can see where they were going with. I mean, Rockstar was going with it, but it just didn't feel the same. Like at first I was impressed I was in Liberty City, and by the time the graphics came out, the fidelity of the graphics were better and stuff like that. But then it was like, yeah, but it doesn't feel like a GTA game.
Yeah.
And so then in GTA 5, it was like, okay, we're going to double down on the wacky hijinks and the poop jokes and the sex jokes and whatever, and that's going to make big things. But again, just like... not as bad as Far Cry 5, but in a very similar vein. When the story kicks in, it sort of kicks in a way that you're like, you feel like you're in Rails, right?
Yeah.
That you're going from one story mission to the next. And while one thing I think the games kind of lost was like the cities kind of felt more real than other open world games. But they lost their soul in a way, the gaming soul, that is. I just didn't. I mean, I finished the game. I played the single player campaign. After that, I was like, I'm done. Where before, I would go back and play like 5 or 10 minutes every so often, or start the game all over again. Ironically, Saints Row, which is one of the many games that came out imitating originally GTA. Going back to the game we call GTA clones, they went in a completely different direction, except for the last game, which no one knows really what they were trying to do with that game. But and you saw Mayhem, by the way, that's a game I'm talking about. But they were like, oh, okay, we're gonna be like the GTA that doesn't exist yet for Xbox, okay, with graphics from the Xbox OC and the 360. Fine. We're going to get a little more wacky in Saints Row 2. Then in Saints Row 3, they really double down on the wackiness. And then by Saints Row 4, you were playing a superhero game.
Yep.
Right. A lot of people didn't like that. but I can see where they were going because it's like we done a game with the same characters where they conquered the city and became the richest people in the city, the richest a-holes in the city. What are we gonna do next, right? We need to
The
change
world.
the world and the universe and all that. We have to change this up, right? And they understood there was primarily an open world game, and being in that open world and making it fun was the thing to do. The rampage attacks and the vehicles and the powers and it worked, right? But even then, they kind of also run it down to the ground because eventually they went to hell in a standalone. It's like, yeah, okay, so you have superpowers and you're in a version of the city that is in hell, and it was a cheaper game. It's like it was kind of their Blood Dragon, right? Like a send off to the series. So it's not that bad, and you could sort of glide around in angel wings or bat wings, or whatever. But again, by that time, you could see that the formula itself had been, had run its course.
Right? Yeah.
And I think what I really want to say, what I was saying originally, is like the formulas are not inherently bad if one, you understand what works and how they work, and you're willing to do two things: improve them, and eventually also ultimately need to know when to, if not abandon them, to give them a rest.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you gotta go, you know what? We've done everything we think we can do with this formula. Let's give it a rest, a couple of years, and then maybe apply the lessons to some other things and see how that works.
Yeah. One of the more famous franchises that's been pretty much like that is Naughty Dog's been doing that. They did that with Jak and Daxter. Mm-hmm. People have been wanting another one, but they're like, we just don't feel it. Like, we're not gonna like put out a game that we're not feeling is gonna fit the direction that we want to go. Mm-hmm. And I believe they're also doing that with the Nathan Drake series, the Uncharted series.
Yeah, they did a side game with that game with two other characters, and it did fairly well. But they basically said, the Drake story is over.
Yeah.
For now. Probably bring their daughter or something, Yeah, I mean, it's when it comes to formula, I think imitation is not always the best form of flattery, because and maybe to the listeners or and viewers, if you read an article by a critic that keeps saying, well, this is so repetitive and stuff like that, and they seem like the joy is out of their playing this particular game, they're not really hating on the game just because they want to hate on it. Think of it as if you see more than one critic doing this, by the way, I would call the canary in the coal mine, because they've probably been playing 2 or 3 or 4 times more games that are, not only this particular franchise from this particular company, but they play like all the Ubisoft games or all the Ubisoft, EA, and Warner Brothers and whatever other games that are out there that are keep doing the same thing. And so their fatigue is, and it's a warning.
It's a symptom of a bigger problem in the gaming industry.
Because I assure you, unless you're a hardcore fan of something, you're the kind of person that, it's like there are people who play farm simulators games. That's what they like, and they don't like anything else. We talk about people who play like football games, and that's what they like. But for everyone else, you're probably gonna go like, yeah, I don't know, this game doesn't do it for me. But you're probably gonna feel that a game or 2 or 3 or 4 games down the line from when you read that review 2, 3, 4, 5 years before, complaining about this being the same game that you played before. So, don't dismiss those statements outright.
Yeah, and I believe that we're probably going to see the next biggest formula that's going to end up getting overused is the battle royale formula.
Mm-hmm. I think people are already tired. I think people are already tired of it.
Yeah, we're seeing it being like thrown in at the last minute on new games that are coming out. Yeah. I believe the newest Call of Duty, they pretty much admitted they're just shoving another one in there because that's what's hot right now.
Mm-hmm. And then we complain that all the games feel the same, play the same, act the same, look the same, because they
Although,
are the same, kind of.
yeah, and then of course you end up with people who kind of diss on indie games that try something new. I mean, sometimes they work. Their new formulas don't work, and sometimes they do, but they just don't end up getting the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah.
And then, of course, sometimes they get the recognition they deserve. They end up getting either bought out or sell their soul to a publisher, and then guess what we see? We see that become a formula.
Hmm. Well, that's all the time that we have for tonight. As always, Chapaman, where can we find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me at Chopamon pretty much anywhere. I am at Chopamon_Aragon on Twitch and Twitter. I'm actually uploading my next Citadel review part pretty much right after the stream, assuming my computer doesn't decide to restart it again. Damn you, Microsoft.
And you can find me, of course, here in Lessons Learned 1 on Twitch. The 1 is important. Lessons Learned on YouTube and Lessons Learned on Twitter. I'm still playing BattleTech, the game, on the afternoons and evening at 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock Eastern, respectively. Saturdays, I am still continuing to do the 3980 tabletop RPG design. I'm also participating in RP Glory's Eschaton game, usually on Wednesdays afternoon around 2 o'clock Eastern, between 2 to 6. And I probably am thinking of starting a new series or restarting my one-person discussion series. I'm going to do a mixture of Twitch and YouTube on Sundays. If I have something I want to talk about and ramble about between 15 minutes to an hour, I'll first do it live and then whittle it down and process it for YouTube. So those are the plans. So if you want to join us, you can always find us here on Twitch, certainly. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you when we see you.
Good night.
Bye.